Hi, David again. I want to do a video on a class I remember that I took at BYU, and I've certainly observed this, and you have too, on TV and every place. It's basically crowd behavior. Individuals will do things in a crowd that they would not do alone and on their own. You see this, and of course, you're all so young that watch this, you don't remember, but the old westerns, where all the guys got together and they go, hang him, hang him, hang him, and they rush the sheriff's office, and the sheriff comes out with his gun, and he says to the crowd, Jacob, I remember when we used to be together as brothers, and Mike. So he starts to separate out the crowd behavior. It's a tactic that is well known and a tactic that is used constantly with riot police and other people who know psychology. If you're in a group of 100 people and they're all screaming, kill the man, you're going to chant, Pele Ale. You're going to say, oh God, hear the words of my mouth. You're going to join in. Because if you don't, you look stupid. And you think, well, geez, they must know what they're doing. One of the things that I've observed is that in the Mormon church that few people, I'm trying to think, few people rise to independence and fame and good works. Most Mormons love being in the group. Now you have the exceptions of Joseph Smith and Brigham Young and some of those narcissistic behaviors and ideas, but I'm talking now generally because the Mormons say, oh, see, there's famous Mormons. Well, there's a few famous Mormons. Gladys Knight. I don't think the Pips are Mormons, but maybe the Pips are. I don't know. But Gladys Knight, thank God they've got one black woman, and she was accomplished before she joined the Mormon church. People do things in crowds that they will not do individually. Now, think about it. This is cult behavior. If you sit down with an individual Mormon, usually you might be able to have some type of a discussion on an adult level. But there's always two or more. See, that's the philosophy of the Mormon church. Out of the mouth of two or more will come the truth. It's one reason they send missionaries. Well, there's another reason that they send the missionaries in twos. Because they outnumber you. And they go, see, isn't that the way you feel? And there's two of them shaking their head. And you go, well, yeah, I feel that burning in my bosom. You're lying your ass off. You don't feel anything. But you're pressured in the group to say yes. Take a look at the Mormon church. Please go. If you're not a Mormon, good Lord, anything I say, you're not going to even relate to. But when you go to a Mormon church, everything is in groups. And sacrament meeting, you're in there with 100 or 75, 125 people. And when they all sustain the prophet and they raise their hand, you look around and go, well, I don't agree, but there goes my hand. There's group behavior, cult behavior. Pressure of a cult because the members put pressure on each other to stay up to the standards of what the cult wants. So when you go to Mormon events, you don't stand out. You stand out, you're going to be standing down. You can't be an individual. There's no way to be an individual. And all the 50 years that I spent in the Mormon church, if I tried to be an individual, I got kicked out. I got to tell you a story. I'm not athletic. I'm really not. I wasn't a geek. Some people say that on my video, that I'm a geek. I could be. I've got a video on being a geek. But I could hit a baseball or whatever. And so the church, we had baseball teams in Ojai, California, where I was growing up. In those days, it was the Santa Barbara stake. Now it's the Ventura stake. And the stake president had a son who I found personally obnoxious. I have a trouble with authority figures. I've noticed that. I need some counseling on authority figures because the authority figures in my life have usually been child molesters, liars, thieves, cheats, murderers. So I have a little bit of problem with authority images. So we were playing baseball one day in Ojai, and of course the the leaders of the Aaronic priesthood, I was probably, I don't know, 15. They were out there and they were coaching us and telling us all about the how to behave, which I couldn't. And so finally, I hit a ball, and the stake president's son was on second base. And so I rounded first. I'm going to make it at least a double. And I come down into his base there, and I slide. Now, I was safe. See, self-evaluation. I was safe. But his father, the stake president, was the umpire. And I'm out. And I was so shocked that the stake president would protect his son in a clear violation that I was safe, but he fingered me out. Well, I think the stake president heard David at the 15-year-old level turn to the stake president's son and verbally abused him. I said, "You asshole. I hate you. I hate your father. You're open of the devil." I went on and on because, I have a little bit of a mouth. 300 videos, a little bit of a mouth. What a liar. But anyway, there is no outstanding person in the Mormon church. They do everything in a group. In the tabernacle choir, sometimes they will deviate and some person will sing, part of a song backed up by the choir. And certainly Donnie and Marie, and if I was born again, and I'm not, I'm not any religion, okay, I'm not born again. I really mean if I died and I was born again, I hope I would be Marie Osmond's older brother. I'm sick. I'm a sick man. But anyway, the point that I'm making is that nobody raises above certain levels in the Mormon church. You're in an elders quorum presidency, you're in a high priest presidency, you're in a member of a ward, you're in a stake, and everything is in a group. Well, cults use that group stuff to keep the pressure on you, that you'll say something when someone is deviating, they'll say something. It's very similar to what was used by the Nazis in World War II, of kids reporting their parents and parents reporting their kids. So cults have a way of keeping their members in line. If you excel anywhere in the Mormon church, you're in the fishbowl. You're in a fishbowl because the rest of the members go, "Well, that's not really allowed, And how come he or she's making the big bucks and the cameras are on them, not on the whole choir?" Well, I just wanted to make this video on my observation. Mormons do everything in groups. You're not allowed to be alone. Are missionaries allowed to be alone? Never. Only when they're going poo-poo. They can be alone going poo-poo. And they still get into trouble with going poo-poo, homosexuality, and other crazy stuff. But that's not the point. The point is, if a person is alone, there is a good chance they're going to start to think. That's not allowed in the Mormon church. You're not allowed to question anything. You're not allowed to be alone and think. And as long as there's at least two of you, you're scared that the other one may tell the mission president, you were looking at the girls. So they keep each other in fear. They keep each other in negative feelings. And that's how they feel. Now, if you show me a happy, funny, excited, neat Mormon, I'm going to say that they've only been in the church less than 5 years. The damage of this group behavior and cult behavior is not overt. You don't see it at the very beginning of your journey into the Mormon church. But home teachers go into, visiting teachers go into. Now the church will say, and the Mormons will say on this video, well, we feel that protects people from having sexual relations with other people. If there's two, there's safety. That's what the Mormons say. The Mormons have a rule, too, that you're not allowed to be in a car with the opposite sex going anywhere alone. You may jump in the back seat and, lose your dental recommend. Well, I'm going to say there's probably some some credence to that kind of a policy. When I take babysitters home, for years and years, I never take a babysitter home alone. I always have my wife take her, or I'll take one of my kids. There is always three, and there is a certain amount of protection in that. But when you've got 75, 100, 3,000, 30,000, and they're all chanting, and they're all waving the hanky, the white hanky from the hinkster on temple dedications, there is a strong, strong human urge to be accepted and to be part of a group. Every human being seems to want to be something bigger than themselves, and the Mormon Church provides that. That is called behavior. If a person has good self-esteem, if a person is talented and a person is well educated and they make good money, it's very hard to convert them to the Mormon Church. When my wife was on her mission in the Philippines, her mission president said, don't bring any more poor people in. We want, the upper class, richer people, and you can't find them. So the Philippines and other third world countries, you're getting a lot of poor people. Well, the poor people see that the church gives them to be something more than they are. You get to go to a building on Sunday that you couldn't possibly afford, and you have pride, and you have dignity and self-esteem because you're a Mormon. Well, a lot of people need that. That's where the strong membership and conversion rate in the Mormon Church comes in. If you're in a divorce, I've said this before, if you're on disability, or you've had a death of a child, or some kind of a terrible thing that's happened to you, you're ripe. You are vulnerable, and the missionaries smell that. It's kind of like in the wild. If someone has blood and an animal is dying, the vultures will hover over it till it quits kicking. Well, in many ways, now that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but the principle is true, that when you're wounded, the Mormons want you. Well, those conversion rates are higher. But if you find a man and a woman who have a beautiful home, and they're making good money, and they go to Europe, and they've got 1 or 2 children, and they're in private school, and they're driving a Mercedes, and they both are very well dressed, and she has her jewels and whatever, and the Mormons knock on their door, they're going to tell the butler not to open the damn door. So the Mormons don't have a chance with those people. They have a chance with Mitt Romney. Now, he was born in the Mormon Church, so he came up through the ranks, and now it appears that he was converted as a successful, rich businessman. Well, I saw a little interview with him the other day, and they asked him what it was like to be on a Mormon mission in France, and he said, well, we knocked on doors from early morning until late night for 5 months, and we didn't even get into a house or a convert. So I've noticed on my video demographics that the old parts of the world in Europe, they don't give a rat's ass of what I'm saying and what you're saying and what the Mormons are saying. England, yeah. I get a lot of hits in England. I get a lot of hits in Brazil and Peru and Argentina and all the states in the United States. And, oh gosh, in Asia, I get Japan and the Philippines and Morocco and Manila, or not Manila, whatever. But if you're rich and you're successful and your old country, like in Italy, of course that's mostly Catholic, but France and other countries don't give a shit about what I'm saying, and they don't give a shit about Romney knocking on their doors, and they just want to be left alone. So the stable foundation of civilization are pretty happy with their lives, and they're not going to be taken advantage of. And the Mormon Church does not do well in Europe. I see stakes combining and wards being shifted to other stakes and shut down, or wards being combined, because when you got 20 people sitting in a ward, it looks bad. So you combine it with another ward, now you've got 110 people, and so it looks like the church is growing. So it's an image. It's it is not delusional. Maybe it is delusional, but it's image and making everybody think. Deception, that's the word I wanted. With their deceptions that their church is growing and they're doing well. Well, they're not. They're not. The church membership basically is about 4 million. Out of that 4 million, probably 2.5 million are full tithe payers. And that's enough for the authorities to have Lear jets and black limos and wonderful, very expensive offices and homes, and no taxes and no tithing. Well, you know, they're living like kings, and the rest of you are living like paupers. It looks like kind of a serf society where the king throws out the bread now and then, and the serfs all run and get some of it. So anyway, be careful of group behavior. Riots, mobs. We've seen the. Of course, this video will be dated within hours perhaps. The Arab Spring, where Egypt and Libya and other Arab countries have gone into rebellion and civil wars and have exchanged kings that are ruthless for supposedly independent people voted in. So people will riot. People will push through doors. If you don't believe me, yeah, this tape is being made a few days before Christmas in 2011, and I just saw a video on the TV that they have, I think it's Air Jordan tennis shoes at $180, and the people were lined up outside, and as soon as the doors opened, the people pushed so hard that they knocked those aluminum doors off their hinges. Now, when I was a young man, I hung those aluminum doors. I was a glazer. And those storefronts are tough. They're made for millions and millions of times for that door to open with a, not a Jackson, but it's got a, I can't remember the name of the closer, the floor closers. They're set in cement. And those doors are 100% aluminum, and they've got on them tempered glass. That's not easy to knock down. And they were jumping over each other and running like idiots and trying to get these shoes. And that behavior an individual would not do. If they were just standing outside of Walmart or whatever and they opened the door, they'd just walk in. But as soon as you crowd all those people in screaming and yelling and chanting like they do in the temple, then people are going to do things that they don't ordinarily do. So a little bit of a lesson for you and me, that there's no Mormons that really excel above the crowd. They stay in the crowd, and if they start to excel, that's not acceptable. And if they do, they become a threat. And generally, they will be, looked at in the fishbowl, and somebody somewhere will find a way to discipline them, disfellowship them, and or excommunicate them. So, group behavior, mob behavior, same thing, same motivation. It's just part of being a human being. The Mormons know that. That's why you're never allowed to be alone in the Mormon church, and why you're mostly in crowds all the time. Thanks.